Oh, there we are. I am here. I am here now. Oh, shit. There, okay. All right. Let's see. Just real quick. Still got this. Got that. Good. Good. What am I doing? Blank. Okay, yeah, I can do that. I was gonna listen to Thing. Another Alyssa clips got posted today, so I think I'll just start playing that. Not that there's some kind of obligation to play all of them. It's content, though. But it's just one short one. Then I actually really did want to listen to Anti-Charist. Right? What? Let's see. I'm pretty close by. Cool. And you know what? Here, I'll play this. This is like 6 minutes. It should play. Is it gonna play? I don't know. You know what? The soundboard isn't working because apparently I don't know if Steam just released some goofy thing, but when I turned on this game, it closed SoundPad, which SoundPad runs through Steam, and I don't know if Steam thinks it's like, oh, that's another game, so we can't run both at the same time. It was running both at the same time the whole time. It's running OVR Toolkit, which is another program I run through Steam. But I don't know. Maybe something happened with SoundPad, so very unfortunate. I can't use the soundboard anymore. Shoot, I knew it. I knew it. You know what? In fact, why am I doing that? 9/11. Whoa. Right? No, right, that's right. I was like, where the hell am I? That's basically where the hell I was already. Okay, yeah. Okay. I'll make better time now. 8. So, yeah, I'm very unfortunate I won't be able to hit the soundboard. I'll be able to look at it and say, oh, look at the things on my soundboard. Actually, if I turn my hand like this forward, instead of turning it all the way back, that's not bad. Oh, wait, where am I now? Let me go look at the, pretty sure I have my browser open. If I can just play that manually, I think that'll be fine. But there may be some goofy things going on with Steam VR now. It's going to make things harder, but I'm not sure it'll matter.
I don't give permission for anyone to clip this. If you clip this, you're a bigot and you're gay. Also, when I say gay, I mean you're really gay.
There we go.
I've been talking to Rumble. Sent them a message. I was like, "Hey, my contract's coming up. Like, what are we doing here? What are you doing here?" There's been much talk and speculation over this.
What are they doing?
Oh my god, I'm listening to the internet. I really want to know what Rumble thinks because Twitter has told me what's going to happen. It's like, hey, I want to talk about this. We should probably have a discussion soon. And they're like, yeah.
Okay, yeah. I did not have my browser open, so I was like, why isn't it playing? It wasn't even open. Wasn't even open. Which is fine. Everything's fine. But yeah, here comes like a nuclear dump of cope. Nuclear cope dump from Mercada. That's kind of out of nowhere. It's going to show he listens to the haters, and especially the detractors, which is, as we all know, the worst thing anyone could ever possibly be. I was going to say, there's no knife. I think they changed that to make it just so it's always sweet. It's always sweet. It's just always here, as opposed to being on a physical space on your arm. It's just always on top of your arm. It works pretty well. I wonder if I could just stab him. I don't have to throw it, I don't think. Oh, it's here. I'll play this. Because when I do get to the Antichrist book on tape, I'm going to have to get up and go fast forward to like 9 minutes in, which is where I left off.
We would love to talk about renewing. Love working with you. I'm like, me too. You guys are great. So, hopefully, I'll be working that out with Rumble, seeing what it looks like going forward. But super excited to keep working with them on an ongoing basis. Sorry, Kiwi guys.
Oh shit,
Doesn't work out the way you
the
projected.
Karen farms. Yeah, more like the Karen farms. Get 'em, Nick. Get 'em. Get 'em.
That being said,
Oh, yeah, that's right.
as things get solidified, of course, I'll let you know to the extent able. But it looks good so far for proceeding beyond this first.
This is really just, again, it's like preemptive and perhaps even post-emptive damage control, because some people made fun of him, especially about the fact that he has posted cringe and lost subscriber. So he wants to go, it's again a form of virtue signal, success signal, where you go and you try to tell everyone how everything's going great. It's the old Owen Benjamin move of when things are going bad and everyone's just running up to me. This one's drunk. First of all, maybe it's the Nick Rekieta of Spawns. He's drunk. Anyways, but yeah, it's classic PR defense tactic is if something has ever gone wrong in public and people are laughing at you, especially if you can't handle it, make sure to do a public display of something, either virtue or success, or the classic for Rekieta is the not even care. This is not a form of he doesn't even care, because of course he does. Otherwise, why bring it up? If everything's going great for you with Rumble, you don't even have to do a video being like, everything's going great with me. But I mean, if you mention it offhandedly, it's like, everything's going great with me with Rumble, just, one single throwaway sentence, then, I could believe it, certainly. But if you're doing a full video where you have to keep insisting, like this is a perfect example right here, proving my point.
Your contract.
Why is Nick
It's a huge
Rekieta
risk,
proving my
by the
point?
way.
Why is he choosing to prove me right?
It's
I
kind
don't
of
know.
wild.
But he did
When I
that.
think back on it, it's like, you're building on YouTube. You've been building for years, 6 years, 5 years at the time. 5 years of work on YouTube.
Gun
What
kata.
you're going to do
Pwah.
is you're going to
Fuck. Damn
stop
you.
the thing that you're doing that is growing this one.
Oh. Shit, that
In
did
fact,
work.
you're going to kind of shun that thing. Every single day, you're going to cut off your stream and be annoying, and then go to Rumble for the sole purpose of getting people to explore this alternative opportunity.
Alternative. Very
That's a massive
alternative
risk when you really
lifestyle.
think
That's
about
what it's more like.
what it is, 'cause YouTube is
Alternate
really good
lifestyle, my ass.
monetization. It's really good at distribution.
Imagine what those pumpkins do when they're alone. And what about the muff divers? Think about it. I know all about it. That used to be your favorite. All of our actual cool people on the internet, about 20 years ago on the internet, back when it was still cool, back when it wasn't full of gay, literal homosexual lawyers trying to convince everyone that they're not swingers, that they're wholesome. It's very interesting as something that my brother was very correct about was just so many people were constantly trying to convince everyone that Rekieta is a base trad chad. I was like, really? Because he acts like a big faggot. Again. Yeah, I'll sleep it off. In fact, I'm pretty close to... No. Fuck you. Fuck you. I'm setting... Oh, look, I'm reaching into it and setting it off. See? Wow. Okay, come on. Good thing for autosaving. Phew. Okay. Oh, that's always good advice. Oh. Play this. It never happened. Okay. I mean, why? I don't need the soundboard. I can just do this myself. Yarg. Was this story based? No. How is it that I could be so defeated? It never happened. Whatever. Okay, where am I? Did I get these? No, I did not. But you know what? This is right here. This is extremely perilous. Go. Neat. And there's another one like here. No, you don't. I see that cloud thing. Okay. Right on top of it. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna play this again, I guess.
Rumble's got some shit to work on the creator side of these things.
Do they?
They've got a lot of promise. But goddamn.
Shit. Again, I fell right into it.
What if it doesn't work out?
Here, save.
If it doesn't work out, and I thought about this back
There.
then, no, I'm willing to take the risk. But if it doesn't work out, you're fucked. You have spent a year. You have spent a year not focusing on the thing you spent 5 years building. And trust me, if you don't
Building a
think that
YouTube
matters,
channel.
if you
He
don't
built a
think that has
YouTube channel where he
immediate
pretended to
tangible
be
impact,
a
to
wholesome
disregard
trad
the platform
Christian.
you built on in favor of another.
That's, again, it's like all the things that, people tell us and insist all the time. One of them is, Nick Rekieta is a good Christian traditionalist who's, wholesome and pure, and he's honest. That alone should make you really, it should give you some serious pause and make you doubt everything. Like, go to Paul and fucking just straight up ask him, why did you people tell me that this guy was based Christian when he's clearly a big faggot? Look, when he's doing this and this, things you can point to that prove that everything they believed is not true. And what is the nature then? That's the most important thing to think about. What is the nature of people's beliefs when they just believe things that just ain't so? And the same people who tell you that Nick Rekieta is a good wholesome Christian are the same people who believe that NoFap actually exists and that it didn't come from a furry fetishists. That one either shocks them or they just refuse to believe it, even though there's there are furries who are like, yeah, no Nut November is a big thing in the furry community. Did you know that? Why the real question, why the fuck do I know that? And then look at the fucking thumbnail that I posted for this goofy ass video. A wolf in VR. Are there any? No, I don't think so. I can go here and then walk across the thing. That's actually good. That's a good path. Here, let me play more of this.
News for you. It definitely does. It's not an easy thing.
Is referencing the thing
It's
where
not a profitable thing.
where I said that means you get that means you gay, Nick
normal,
Rekieta.
traditional sort of thing, which is obviously
Yes, he did.
why,
I'm pulling a null and saying he directly
is
referenced that thing
critical.
that I said to him
well,
and made fun of him
you
about.
have to compensate for what risk you're taking.
Oh shit. Well, whatever.
It's been a very good gamble for me. It's been a good risk. My YouTube
It hasn't been a gamble at all.
obviously
That's
suffered. I'm
that
okay
is
with
that is pure delusion. Is that he acts like it's a gamble to just pander to people and tell them things, tell them that you are this thing that you aren't, and tell them that you support this thing that you in practice do not support. Tell them you're a lawyer when you're a non-practicing lawyer. That was, that didn't come from Eric July. Eric July didn't point that out. Fucking everyone who actually realized and noticed what Nick Rekieta really is. Pointed that out. But yeah, people have been making fun of Nick Rekieta for being a non-practicing lawyer, and really not a real lawyer. University of American Samoa, but people have been making fun of him about that for years. In a way that clearly gets under his skin because look at how he reacted to it. Even people who don't like Eric July, are like Eric July clearly got under Nick Rekieta's skin about that. Because I mean, I know that for a fact because I don't like Eric July. Eric July is basically the same as Nick Rekieta. Wait. Oh, there we go. That's why I don't like Eric July or Nick Rekieta. There we go. That's all better. Is there actually you know what? Give myself two. Actually, no, wait, not. I don't need an energy drink if I'm near a bed. Stupid. Why am I here? Oh yeah, that's right. I was just gonna come here to heal. No, wait. I was coming here for a quest. That's right. But yeah, perfect example. Mark, you know what? One of these, the number station that I played, it got copyright claimed.
UMPSC Explorer 12.
This one at least.
13-5,
Fuck.
Dark Cores. Dark Cores
Dark
are the
Cores.
remnants from unique radius species that now inhabit Pechorsk.
Yeah,
They're
I got tons of
a
them.
dark inner material and emit a reddish glow. Cores are
Do they?
left behind by radius species after they are eliminated and begin to rapidly decay within hours. The cores of fragments resemble a cross between a shattered Christmas decoration and a Calabi Yao manifold.
What?
The cores
No.
of mimics
No, they
look
don't.
like a weaved nest with
Do
a
they?
unique triangular pyramid in the middle. The cores of spawns appear similar to Mobius strips fused together. The
Do
cores
they?
of teleporters
they do.
look comparable to a fragmented washer bolt. I can't help but wishing Dark Cores actually did something, though. The
They don't.
UMPSC has us collect them like other
They
items,
exist.
so
Isn't
they
that something?
must believe Dark Cores have some potential use or value. Current working theory is that Dark Cores provide insight about the nature of the radius, what brought it into being, what sustains
No, they
it.
don't.
Because they come from a radius species. It's believed that
Oh.
the remnants are a kind of life force, that the life force must be connected to
Like the
whatever
movie
power
Life Force.
is responsible for all of it.
Toby Hooper classic Life Force. Go in. Come on. What? There.
双拐洞，双拐洞，双拐洞，138呼叫，138呼叫，138呼叫，不是，不是。
I'm gonna get copyright claimed again. There's like, what the hell copyright claimed the fucking something from this game? It was like, number station collection on CD. And it's like, what the fuck? You copyright claiming just random First of all, Russia or China would be so pissed. They'd be like, that's our copyright. You motherfuckers. But whatever. Go. Oh yeah, that's right. Got it. Let me finish this coping gay wad.
YouTube's a bunch of bitches. At the end of the day.
Oh shit. He's going there. Get him.
Our opinions into boxes.
Yeah, fucking YouTube is censoring all of us. But meanwhile, Nick Rekieta is more than happy to make money for YouTube. Who are you splitting that super chat money with, Nick? Oh yeah, it's YouTube. Finally, good. Need these. In fact, keeping that one for sure. Okay. But yeah, it's funny that every time one of these people is like, they're censoring us, they're shutting us down. It's like, you are actively making money for them. You know, at least admit that. At least admit, it's like, oh, YouTube is so bad. It's like you're not having any problem giving them their 35% cut of all the money you make through YouTube, especially super chats. Every super chat somebody sends, a third of that just straight up goes to YouTube, to the woke mob that's censoring you. How much of a problem do you really have with that? I mean, that's really the problem. Nick Rekieta doesn't care that YouTube is censoring people. He wants just more of the cut. But he also won't admit that that's the real problem, is that YouTube is taking all that money. see here. I got all my stuff. That was here. Here we go.
Isn't. Whatever you may think of them, they do not do that. So,
Oh yeah, that's he just said that Rumble doesn't censor, which is provably, demonstrably, you could say, false. You don't even need to use me as an example, although I am a prime living example. If you go to look up Reaction Fulv, I'm pretty sure you can find the Reaction Fulv channel, Reaction FLV channel on Rumble, and it may even say that there are videos on it. And then when you go to the channel, proper, it will say no videos found. So it's not even correctly consistent, but they did censor that channel. There's no way around that. They wiped out every video on that channel for absolutely, not even for a reason that can be explained in any other way. That channel got erased over nothing that channel posted. And in reality, it was because I made that channel along with making my main channel that was used as a backup for this channel on YouTube, and that Nick Recato personally doesn't like me. That's the only explanation, because Rumble wouldn't give me an explanation for why they erased the channel. So the only thing I can assume is that somebody at Rumble personally didn't like me and chose to call in that favor and say, let's just erase this guy's channel. And I didn't even really post a lot of videos about Recato. I posted just a few that were basically old mirrors of stuff that I made, from like 2020 and that kind of thing, from a few years ago. Just goofing on him, making fun of him. The Bants, which he can't handle. Do I still have one? Yes. Sweet. So yeah, that's the end. That I never even received an email or a notification or anything on the site that even said that the videos were gone. I just looked at the channel to be like, here, I have this Rumble backup. Let me see if I can find the latest video or something, because it's supposed to automatically mirror. And I go and look, and the entire channel has no videos, and then Reaction Fulv also had no videos. So anyways, what is good? Things are good. Speaking of things that are good, let's listen to something that is gay. Something that's not good.
what has been hell on my YouTube channel? My
Oh
Rumble
no!
channel's at
Oh,
154,000
poor Nick.
subscribers.
Poor
We'll
Nick
be at
E. Titty
155 in the
baby.
next day or two, consistently gaining multiple thousand followers on Rumble every month. It's awesome to see. It's great to keep growing. I love doing it. And
Here's
I like
something,
working.
by the way, he's talking about getting thousands of new followers or subscribers or whatever the fuck it is on Rumble. Shit. I need to do more of these. I just want to make sure I'm stockpiling up so much money. I should get to 10K. I know I don't need it, but I should. In fact, I should keep going until I basically run out of these. And then go back to that. In fact, go back to this. What? What the? I hate how the top of these are all rusty, but they're basically at, top performance. What was that? 22 out of 20. Yeah. Okay. Could use another one of those mags. In fact, maybe I should just buy one. Then I'll know that I am ready. I should actually have. Here, let me just play this.
With the company because they don't tell me what I can't say. And not just that they don't tell me. YouTube doesn't tell you what you can't say either. YouTube just punishes you when you say the thing you didn't know you couldn't say. Rumble doesn't have that list. It's very, very specific. Like if you are threatening imminent violence.
This is just straight up a lie. Again, proven. Oh yeah, I was gonna say you don't even need to use me as an example or Reaction Fulv as an example. Jim Goad posted a video about the KKK. He posted like a reading of a video essay or a reading of an essay that he wrote for Countercurrents, I think. So he just did a video about it, and I think it stayed on YouTube, but Rumble deleted it. And again, he said, Jim Goad said, they didn't tell him why or explain why. I want to just erase that. In fact, I probably still could if I just use this, right? Fuck it. No. Whatever. Spawn core. Yeah, okay. That was another thing, is that Rumble, without warning, without any notification, without any explanation, deleted one of Jim Goad's videos just out of nowhere. And that was just one video from him. They deleted my entire channel without warning, without explanation. And if they did explain why, it may actually be a thing where it's like, okay, now I know, but it will never explain why they deleted Reaction Fulv, which YouTube did. YouTube at least said, this is hate speech. This clip from Midnight Cowboy, that's only 5 seconds long, is hate speech. And it's like, that's really stupid, but at least they gave me their explanation. Rumble didn't do that, and this video now is Nick Rekieta pretending that Rumble Rumble doesn't have a list of things they'll ban you for, but he's going to give a couple reasons for what they'll ban you for, and they are, of course, false. Because, again, Jim Goad, his video wasn't deleted for any of these this reason, and neither was I.
Okay. Or if you post something truly obscene, true obscenity, then you get tagged. I guess I've never seen it happen, but YouTube, you see it happen all the time. So I of course love the environment on Rumble better. I want more people to come there. I do want to rework the.
Again, he's under contract. How much can you really trust him to say that when he's under contract at Rumble?
To drive people to Rumble. Happy to incorporate my YouTube channel and keep using it in a way that drives people to Rumble, but I don't want to do the flip because the flip kind of sucks. It really
yeah, it's so hard.
I much prefer to just be on Rumble exclusively. I think the flip
like he can just pay people to transfer his fucking channel over.
Flip, maybe it's like one day a week. It's not every show.
I think by the flip he means just going exclusively to Rumble and not posting anything to YouTube or something.
It's very forced.
I don't know. Who cares?
And it was good for a while. I just don't think it's good.
Like gay people's problems.
The majority of people.
The e-celeb problem. The eternal e-celeb
we'll figure that
problem.
Out. I don't know what it's going to look like. So just wanted to make that a little announcement. Guys, I keep hearing that my life is over, the show is over.
Here's the cope
my
part, too.
My contract expired months ago, apparently, which is weird.
Yeah, nobody said that.
The stuff I hear about myself are just amazing. It's like, all right. Write your fan fiction all you want. We all do it.
We all do it? What? Wait a second. I don't.
But, looks like I'm going to be around for a little bit longer.
Again, he's trying to pretend like people have been saying, even the Karen farms haven't been saying that. He wants to pretend that they have, so that he can be like, oh, they're completely wrong. It's like, yeah, he's done that before many times about many things.
Recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org.
LibriVox? What the fuck is that? Okay, anyways, here, hold on, though. I got to really fast forward this, so. And you know what? I deserve a save. Let me just skip ahead to 9 minutes, which is where I left off last time.
Will remain possible, perhaps, for all time to come. Even whole races, tribes, and nations may occasionally represent such lucky accidents. Section 5.
There we go.
We should not deck out and embellish Christianity. It has waged a war to the death against this higher type of man. It has put all the deepest instincts of this type under its ban. It has developed its
Christianity
concept of evil.
Wait a second.
Evil one himself.
Again, I've heard so much about how Christianity is based, but then Christianity is anti-Ubermensch? What? But yeah, I mean, this is Nietzsche's opinion. That's just his opinion. He could be wrong. I mean, it is literally his opinion. Is
Out
what he's saying.
of
He's
these
saying some
instincts.
stuff.
The strong
Saying
man
some
is
things.
the typical reprobate, the outcast among men. Christianity has taken the part of all the weak, the low, the botched. It has made an ideal out of antagonism to all the self-preservative instincts of sound life. It has corrupted even the faculties of those natures that are intellectually most vigorous by representing
Fucking
the highest
got 'em.
intellectual values as sinful,
There's no one.
as misleading,
Oh,
as full of temptation. The most lamentable example, the corruption of Pascal, who believed that his intellect had been destroyed by original sin, whereas it was actually destroyed by Christianity.
whoa. He's going there. Get him.
Section
Get him,
6.
Nietzsche. The
It is a
ultimate neat.
painful and tragic spectacle that rises before me. I have drawn back the curtain from the rottenness of man. This word, in my mouth, is at least free from one suspicion, that it involves a moral accusation against humanity. It is used, and I wish to emphasize the fact again, without any moral significance. And this is so far true that the rottenness
And
I
it's
speak
so
of
true.
is most apparent to me precisely
He's
in those
pulling a
quarters
Trump move.
where there
Can
has
you
been
believe this guy?
most aspiration
Can you
hitherto
believe this guy?
toward virtue and godliness.
Sweet.
As you probably surmise, I understand rottenness in the sense of décadence. My argument is that all the values
has to
on which
pronounce it that way.
mankind now
Come on,
fixes its
pal.
highest aspirations
Come on, Jack.
are décadence values.
Decadence.
I call an animal, a species, an individual, corrupt, when it loses its instincts, when it chooses, when it prefers what is injurious to it. A history of the higher feelings, the ideals of humanity, and
Does he mean like
it is
turning the other
possible that
cheek or
I'll have to
something?
write it, would almost explain why man is so degenerate. Life
Whoa.
itself appears
Even
to me as an
profligate?
instinct for growth, for survival, for the accumulation of forces, for power.
Yarg.
Whenever the will to power fails, there is disaster. My contention is that all the highest values of humanity have been emptied of this will, that the values of décadence, of nihilism, now prevail under the holiest names. Section 7. Christianity is called the religion of pity. Pity stands in opposition to all the tonic passions that augment the energy of the feeling of aliveness. It is a depressant. A man loses power when he pities. Through pity, that
I can't
drain
add
upon
anything to
strength
this
which
because it's just
suffering works
interesting. This is just
multiplied
interesting.
1,000-fold. Suffering is made contagious by pity. Under certain circumstances, it may lead to a total sacrifice of life and living energy, a loss out of all proportion to the magnitude of the cause. The case of the death of the Nazarene. This is the first view of it. There is, however, a still more important one. If one measures the effects of pity by the gravity of the reactions it sets up, its character as a menace to life appears in a much clearer light. Pity thwarts the whole law of evolution, which is the law of natural selection. It preserves whatever is ripe for destruction. It fights on the side of those disinherited and condemned by life. By maintaining life in so many of the botched of all kinds, it gives life itself a gloomy and dubious aspect. Mankind has ventured to call pity a virtue. In every superior moral system, it appears as a weakness.
Superior.
still further.
Holy shit.
It has been called the virtue, the source and foundation of all other virtues. But let us always bear in mind that this was from the standpoint of a philosophy that was nihilistic, and upon whose shield the denial of life was inscribed. Schopenhauer was right in this, that by means of pity, life is denied and made worthy of denial. Pity
That's even worse
is the
than
technique of
regular
nihilism.
denied.
Let me repeat. This depressing and contagious instinct stands against all those instincts which work for the preservation and enhancement of life. In the role of protector of the miserable, it is a prime agent in the promotion of decadence. Pity persuades
Look, just call
to
the church
extinction.
gay, pal.
Of
Just
course,
get to it.
one doesn't say extinction, one says the other world, or God, or the true life, or nirvana, salvation, blessedness.
The band?
This innocent rhetoric from the realm of
Oh, I
religious,
love that band
ethical
that did that
balderdash
song from the
appears
Batman
a good deal
movie.
less innocent when one reflects upon the tendency that it conceals beneath sublime words, the tendency to destroy life. Schopenhauer was hostile to life. That is why pity appeared to him as a virtue. Aristotle, as everyone knows, saw in pity a sickly and dangerous state of mind, the remedy for which was an occasional purgative. He regarded tragedy as that purgative. The instinct of life should prompt us to seek some means of puncturing any such pathological and dangerous accumulation of pity as that appearing in Schopenhauer's case, and also, alack, that of our whole literary decadence, from St. Petersburg to Paris, from Tolstoy to Wagner, that it may be burst
Wagner, huh?
and discharged.
Hitler's favorite
Nothing is more
composer.
unhealthy amid all our unhealthy modernism than Christian pity. To be the doctors here, to be unmerciful here, to wield the knife here. All this is our business. All this is our sort of humanity. By this sign we are philosophers, we Hyperboreans.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Section 8.
You and me, Nietzsche.
It is necessary
We
to
know
say
what we're talking
just
about.
whom we regard as our antagonists. Theologians, and all who have any theological blood in their veins. This is our whole philosophy. One must have faced that menace at close hand. Better still, one must have had experience of it directly and almost succumbed to it, to realize that it is not to be taken lightly. The alleged free-thinking of our naturalists and physiologists seems to me to be a joke. They have no passion about such things. They have not suffered.
Owned? Perhaps.
This poisoning goes a great deal further than most people think. I find the arrogant habit of the theologian among all who regard themselves as idealists, among all who, by virtue of a higher point of departure, claim a right to rise above reality and to look upon it with suspicion. The idealist, like the ecclesiastic, carries all sorts of lofty concepts in his hand, and not only in his hand. He launches them
Up his
with
ass?
benevolent contempt against understanding, the senses, honor,
You
good
can
living,
sing, you
science.
can't, you can part it up
He sees
your
such things as beneath
ass.
him, as pernicious and seductive forces, on which the soul soars as a pure thing in itself, as if humility, chastity, poverty, in a word, holiness, had not already done much more damage to life than all imaginable horrors and vices.
Horrors.
The pure soul is a pure lie, so long as the priest, that professional denier, calumniator, and poisoner of life, is accepted as a higher variety of man, there can be no answer to the question, what is truth? Truth has already been stood on its head.
Kind of
The
going
obvious
after
attorney of mere
Catholicism.
is mistaken for its representative. Section 9. Upon this theological instinct
Section 9.
I make war.
Oh, that's
I find the
inappropriate.
tracks
I'm
of
sorry.
it
That's
everywhere.
inappropriate.
Whoever has theological blood in his veins is shifty and dishonorable in all
Whoa.
things. The pathetic thing that grows out of this condition is called faith. In other words, closing one's eyes upon one's self once for all, to avoid suffering the sight of incurable falsehood. People erect concept of
Whoa.
morality,
Oh.
of virtue,
Okay.
of holiness, upon this false view of all things. They ground good conscience upon faulty vision. They argue that no other sort of vision has
Yes.
value anymore, once they have made theirs sacrosanct with the names of God, salvation, and eternity. I unearth this theological instinct in all directions.
Here we go.
It is the most widespread and the most subterranean form of falsehood to be found on earth. Whatever a theologian regards as true must be false. There, you have almost a criterion of truth.
Is that
His
the
profound
Chad
instinct of
homonym there,
self-preservation
I hear?
stands against truth
believe so.
ever coming into honor in any way, or even getting stated. Wherever the influence of theologians is felt, there is a transvaluation of values, and the concepts, true and
sounds-
false, are forced
nice.
to change places.
Wait a
Whatever
second,
is
that's not
most
good.
damaging to life is there called true, and whatever exalts it, intensifies it, approves it, justifies it, and makes it triumphant is there called false. When theologians, working through the consciences of princes or of peoples,
This is a little too based for my
stretch
taste. I
out
should
their
shut this
hands
off.
for power, there is never any doubt as to the
He shouldn't
fundamental
build-
issue.
It's true, but he shouldn't
The
be
will
allowed to say
to
it.
make an end. The nihilistic will exerts that power. Section 10.
This sounds like somebody called
Among
him a
Germans,
nihilist,
I'm
and he's
immediately
like,
understood.
hold
when
on
I
a
say
second,
that
pal.
Theological blood is the ruin of philosophy. The Protestant pastor is the grandfather of German philosophy.
Oh, that's good.
Protestantism itself is its peccatum originale. Definition of
that bad?
Protestantism: hemiplegic paralysis of Christianity and of
Oh.
reason. One need only utter the words Tübingen School to get an understanding of what German philosophy is at bottom: a very artful form of theology. The Swabians are the best liars in Germany. They lie innocently. Why all the rejoicing over the appearance of Kant that went through the learned world
Whoa,
of Germany,
who's calling Kant?
3/4 of which is made up of the sons of preachers and teachers?
Who's he calling
Why the
Emmanuel
German
cunt?
conviction still echoing that with Kant came a change for the better?
Emmanuel cunt?
The
I get it.
theological instinct of German scholars
I
made
get
them
it.
see clearly just what had become possible again. A back stairs leading to the old ideal stood open. The concept of the true world, the concept of morality, is the essence of the world. The two most vicious errors that ever existed were once more, thanks to a subtle and wily skepticism, if not actually demonstrable, then at least no longer refutable.
Demonstrable, good word.
Reason,
You like that word?
prerogative of reason, does not go so far.
We're being beat up by the inventor
Out
of
of
Scrabble.
reality, there had been made appearance, an absolutely false world,
Whoa.
that of being
I mean,
had been turned into reality.
so far that's
Success
the
of
most
Kant
offensive things he
is
said.
merely a theological success. He was, like Luther and Leibniz, but one more impediment to German integrity, already far from steady. Section 11.
This guy really likes Germans, okay.
A word now
Apparently.
against
I
Kant
guess.
as a moralist.
Whoa. Oh. Count.
A virtue must be our invention.
Kant.
It must spring out of our personal need and defense. In every other case, it is a source of danger. That which does not belong to our life menaces it. A virtue which has its roots in mere respect for the concept of virtue, as Kant would have it, is pernicious. Virtue, duty, good for its own sake,
Static tape.
goodness grounded upon
Creepy static.
impersonality or a notion of universal validity, these are all chimeras. And in them, one
You
finds
mean
only an
chimera,
expression of
pal?
decay, the last
Get it
collapse
right.
of life, the Chinese spirit of Königsberg. Quite the contrary is demanded by the most profound laws of self-preservation and of growth, to wit, that every man find his own virtue, his own categorical imperative.
I don't want to.
A nation goes to pieces when it confounds its duty with the general concept of duty. Nothing works a more complete and penetrating disaster than every impersonal duty, every
How did
sacrifice
fuck this
before the
up in the
moloch
first place?
of abstraction. To think that no one has thought of Kant's categorical imperative as dangerous to life. The theological instinct alone took it under protection. An action prompted by the life instinct proves that it is a right action by the
So how
amount
many
of
people
pleasure
just
that goes with
dismissed
it.
Nietzsche because
And
he
yet,
sounded
that
mad here, by
nihilist,
the way?
with his bowels of Christian dogmatism, regarded pleasure as an objection.
Ooh.
What destroys a man more quickly than to work, think, and feel without inner necessity, without any deep personal desire, without pleasure, as a mere automaton of duty?
Is there going to be...
That is the recipe.
This may be a stupid point to bring up intentionally, but the comparison always seems to devolve, when the idea of pleasure is brought up, it immediately devolves into the concept of hedonism. Everyone just equates pleasure with hedonism or sexual addiction to masturbation. People act like masturbating at all is an addiction to pornography or masturbation when it isn't. And to the point where, people have gone completely delusional and will miss every single point of every single thing that can be said. And I'm saying this as something that's probably completely unrelated to what is bringing up. It was just something that came to my mind as I was listening to this. That's what this is all about. It's about thinking about ideas. As Rich Voss said, great minds think a lot.
For decadence, and no less for idiocy. Kant became an idiot. And such a man was the contemporary of Goethe. This calamitous
Tell
spinner
him
of
how you
cobwebs
really feel.
passed for
He did.
the German philosopher. Still passes today. I forbid myself to say what I think of the Germans.
Uh-oh.
Didn't
Whoa.
Kant see in the French Revolution the transformation of the state from the inorganic form to the organic? Didn't he ask himself if there was a single event that could be explained, save on the assumption of a moral faculty in man, so that, on the basis of it, the tendency of mankind towards the good could be explained once and for all time? Kant's answer? That is revolution. Instinct at fault in everything and anything. Instinct as a revolt against nature. German decadence as a philosophy. That is Kant.
Oh, wow. The way this guy says Kant
I put
every
aside
time
a few skeptics.
sounds just
Types
so
of decency in the history
demeaning.
of philosophy. The rest haven't the slightest conception of intellectual integrity. They behave like women. All
Whoa.
these great enthusiasts and prodigies,
Ba, ba,
they regard
ba.
beautiful feelings
What?
as arguments. The
Oh,
heaving breast
shit.
as the bellows
Oh
of
shit!
divine
Again, he's
inspiration.
talking about virtue signaling.
Conviction as the criterion of
He's
truth.
describing virtue signaling right there.
In the end, with German innocence, Kant
Both
tried to give a scientific
from
flavor
the-
to
the
this form
left
of
and
corruption,
from
this dearth of intellectual
right-wing
conscience, by
people.
calling it practical reason. He deliberately invented a variety of reasons, for use on occasions when it was desirable not to trouble with reason. That is, when morality, when the sublime command, "Thou shalt," was heard. When one recalls the fact that, among all peoples, the philosopher is no more than a development from the old type of priest, this inheritance from the priest, this fraud upon self,
Oh,
ceases to be remarkable. When a man feels that he has a divine mission, say, to lift up, to save, or to liberate mankind,
I wonder why he
when a man
called this
feels
the
the divine spark in his
Antichrist.
heart, and believes that he is the mouthpiece of supernatural imperatives, when such a mission inflames him, it is only natural that he should stand beyond all merely reasonable standards of judgment. He feels that he is himself sanctified by this mission,
Yeah.
that he is himself a type of a higher order. What has a priest to do with philosophy? He stands far above it, and hitherto the priest has ruled. He has
That's really
determined
swapped
the meaning
around
of
these
true
days.
and not
The viewpoint of that is certainly swapped around these days. We're like, no, priests are the best philosophers. This is fucking Nietzsche was seeing it as it actually was instead of how people want to see it. So,
true.
especially back then. It's sort of like the satanic panic of the
Section
80s.
13.
Now that the satanic panic is over,
Let us
people are
not
like, no,
underestimate
Christians
this
were right
fact
about a
that
bunch
we
of
ourselves,
stuff.
we free spirits, are already a transvaluation of all values, a visualized declaration of war and victory against all the old concepts of true and not true. The most valuable intuitions are the last to be attained. The most valuable of all are those which determine methods. All the methods, all the principles of the scientific spirit of today were the targets for thousands of years of the most profound contempt. If a man inclined to them, he was excluded from the society of decent people. He passed as an enemy of God, as a scoffer at the truth,
Man
as one possessed.
inclined sounds very Jewish.
As a man of science, he belonged to the Chandala. Footnote.
That also
The
sounds
lowest
Jewish.
of the Hindu castes.
Oh, well,
End footnote.
is that Jewish? That's some kind of Jew,
We have
right?
had the whole pathetic stupidity of mankind against us.
Whoa.
Their every notion of what the truth ought to be, of what
Okay,
the service of
judgy.
the truth ought to be, their every thou shalt was launched against us. Our objectives, our methods, our quiet, cautious, distrustful manner, all appeared to them as absolutely discreditable.
Why is Nietzsche
contemptible.
speaking so bluntly? Doesn't he know he's supposed to be
Looking
like
back,
more evasive?
one
and
may
be
almost
like,
ask oneself
you know, I
the
just
reason,
think that maybe
if it was not actually an
That's how
aesthetic
I
sense
talk
that
all the
kept
time.
men blind for so long. What they demanded of the truth was picturesque effectiveness, and of the learned, a strong appeal to their senses. It was our modesty that stood out longest against their taste. How well they guessed that, these turkey cocks of God.
Whoa. What? What do I mean? But whoa.
Section 14. We have unlearned something. We have become more modest in every way. We no longer derive man from the spirit, from the Godhead. We have dropped him back among the beasts.
I didn't
We
want to do
regard
that.
him as the strongest of the
Not
beasts,
my fault.
because he is the craftiest. One of the results thereof is his intellectuality. On the other hand, we guard ourselves against a conceit which would assert itself even here, that man is the great second thought in the process of
Some
organic
kind of thought.
evolution.
Thought
He is, in truth, anything but the crown of creation.
Am I ruining this book?
Beside him stand many other animals,
Nah.
all at similar stages of development. And even when we say that, we say a bit too much, for man, relatively speaking, is the most botched of all the animals and the
Whoa,
sickliest,
again with the
and
B
he has
slur.
wandered the most dangerously from his instincts. Though for all that, to be sure, he remains the most interesting.
Oh, you know what?
As regards the
He
lower
talked up
animals,
the human race. That's
it was
not too bad.
Descartes who first had the really admirable daring
Give
to
him the
describe them
Descartes.
as
Come on.
machina.
Come on, Nietzsche.
The whole of our physiology is
Do it.
directed towards proving the truth of this
Let's
doctrine.
go it. Something.
Moreover, it is illogical to
More
set
like
man
less
apart
over.
as Descartes
Jerk.
did.
Oh,
What we know of man today is limited precisely by the extent to which we have regarded him, too, as a machine. Formerly, we accorded to man, as his inheritance from some higher order of beings, what was called free will. Now,
More like
we have
gay
taken
will.
even this will from him, for the term no longer describes anything that we can understand. The old word, will, now connotes only a sort of result, an individual reaction, that follows inevitably upon a series of partly discordant and partly harmonious stimuli.
Someone must
will
have
no
told him
longer
one of his
acts or
previous books
moves.
sucked.
Formerly, it was thought that man's consciousness, his spirit, offered evidence of his high origin, his divinity. That he might be perfected, he was advised, tortoise-like, to draw his senses in, to have no traffic with earthly things, to shuffle off his mortal coil. Then,
Was that some
only
kind of
the
Shakespeare
important
reference,
part
pal?
of him, the pure spirit,
Trying to get fancy
would
there, pal?
remain. Here again, we have thought out the thing better.
Fuck.
To us, consciousness, spirit, appears as a symptom of a relative imperfection of the organism, as an experiment, a groping, a misunderstanding, as an affliction which uses up nervous force unnecessarily. We deny that anything can be done perfectly so long as it is done consciously. The pure spirit is a piece of pure stupidity. Take away the nervous system, and the senses, the so-called mortal shell, and the rest is miscalculation. That is all.
He needs to go into more depth about that one. Right
Section
there.
15.
Oh, you ended the section.
Under Christianity, neither
I
morality
want to hear
nor
more
religion
about that kind of stuff.
has any point of
This is
contact with
interesting.
actuality.
This is interesting.
It offers purely imaginary causes, God, soul, ego, spirit, free will, or even unfree.
He's just
And
dismissing
purely imaginary
Christianity
effects.
entirely.
Sin, salvation, grace,
fuck.
punishment, forgiveness of sins. Intercourse between imaginary beings, God, spirits,
What?
souls,
Whoa.
an
whoa.
imaginary natural history, anthropocentric, a total denial of the concept of natural causes,
Anthropocentric.
an
He's a furry
imaginary
too.
psychology, misunderstandings of self, misinterpretations of agreeable or disagreeable general feelings, for example of the states of the nervous sympathicus, the sign language of religio, ethical, balderdash, repentance, pangs of
Whoa,
conscience,
a
temptation by the
different,
devil, the
an
presence of
entirely different B slur there.
an imaginary teleology, the kingdom of God, the last judgment, eternal life.
Okay, yeah, that ate up my knife.
This purely fictitious world, greatly to its disadvantage,
Did
is
I
to be
lose my
differentiated from
fucking
the world
rifle?
of dreams.
I better not
The
have.
latter, at least, reflects reality, whereas the former falsifies it, cheapens it, and denies it. Once the concept of nature had been opposed to the concept of God, the word natural necessarily took on the meaning of abominable. The whole of that fictitious world has its sources in hatred of the natural, the real, and is no more than evidence of a profound uneasiness in the presence of reality. This explains everything. Who alone has any reason for
got 'em.
living his way out of reality? The man who suffers under it.
If I lost my rifle,
To suffer
I'm
from
fucking
reality,
gonna have to
one must
refresh.
be a botched reality.
Again with a
The
botched.
preponderance of pains over pleasures
Okay.
is the cause of this
That was just
fictitious morality in religion.
Crap.
But such a preponderance also supplies the formula for decadence. Section 16.
Did I drop my
A
rifle somewhere?
criticism
I don't think
of
I
the
even
Christian
had it,
concept
did
of God leads inevitably to the same conclusion. A nation that still believes in itself holds fast to its own God. In him, it does honor to the conditions which enable it to survive, to its virtues. It projects its joy in itself, its feeling of power, into a being to whom one may offer thanks. He who is rich will give of his riches. A proud people need a God to whom they can make sacrifices. Religion, within these limits, is a form of gratitude. A man is grateful for his own existence. To that end, he needs a God. Such a God must be able to work both benefits and injuries. He must be able to play either friend or foe. He is wondered at for the good he does, as well
Sounds
as for the
cool.
evil he does.
Oh.
But the castration against all nature
Whoa.
of such a God,
Oh, no.
making
Okay.
him a God of goodness alone,
Thank fuck.
would be contrary to human inclination. Mankind has just as much need for an evil God as for a good God. It doesn't have to thank mere tolerance and humanitarianism for its own existence. What would be the value of a God who knew nothing
Christianity's
of
been real
anger,
quiet since this
revenge,
dropped.
envy, scorn,
I mean,
Cunning.
unironically,
violence?
like Christianity's
Who
been
would
sort of
perhaps
having
never
to
experience the rapturous adieux of
backpedal
victory,
and try to recorrect after everything
destruction.
that Nietzsche said about him.
No one would understand such a God. Why should anyone want him?
Well, now you don't have to.
True enough. When a nation is on the downward
Oh,
path,
thank you,
when
Nietzsche.
it feels its belief in its own future, its hope of freedom slipping from it, when it begins to see submission as a first necessity, and the virtues of submission as measures of self-preservation,
Islam.
then it must
Islam?
overhaul its God.
Oh.
He then
Well,
becomes a hypocrite,
which is, I think,
timorous and
yeah,
demure.
he's saying
He
that's what
counsels
happened.
Peace of soul,
In a way, it's kind of
hate
happened
no more,
again.
leniency, love of friend and foe. He moralizes endlessly.
Shit.
He creeps into every private virtue. He becomes the god of every man. He becomes a private citizen, a cosmopolitan.
Gross.
Formerly, he
Gross.
represented a people, the strength of a people, everything aggressive and thirsty for power and the soul of a people. Now, he is simply the good god.
Oh.
The truth is that there is no other alternative for gods. Either
Why
their
not?
will to power in which case they are national gods,
Way to reference your own
or
works, pal.
incapacity for power, in which case they have to be good.
Shit, that's almost empty.
Section 17. Wherever the will to power begins to decline, in whatever form, there is always an accompanying
sounds a little
decline
smug.
physiologically,
I like
a
that.
decadence. The divinity of this decadence, shorn of its masculine virtues and passions,
Shorn?
is converted perforce into a god of the physiologically degraded.
Nothing quite like a shorn scrotum.
Of course, they do not call themselves the weak. They
Why is
call
Nietzsche
themselves
making a
the
reference
good.
to
No
Austin
hint
Powers?
is needed to indicate the moments in history
How
at
come
which
he's
the
doing that?
dualistic fiction of a good and an evil god first became possible. The same instinct which prompts the inferior to reduce their own god to goodness in itself
Judgy again.
also prompts them to eliminate all good
Pretty
qualities from
sweet.
the god of their superiors. They make revenge on their masters by making a devil of the latter's god. The good god and the devil like him are both abortions of
Whoa.
decadence.
I mean, what?
How can we be so tolerant of the naivete of Christian theologians as to join in their doctrine that the evolution of the concept of God, from the God of Israel, the God of a people, to the Christian God,
Jezreel.
the essence of all goodness,
Wait, what's the difference?
is to be described as
There isn't
progress?
one? You're telling me there's no
Even
difference?
Renan does this, as if Renan had a right to be so naive.
Ooh.
The contrary actually
He's going
stares
after
one in
all
the
of
face. When everything
Watch
necessary
out.
to ascending life,
Look the
when
fuck
all that
out.
is strong, courageous, masterful, and proud has been eliminated from the concept of God,
Who would win in
when he
debate?
is sunk
Nietzsche
step
or
by step
Jordan
to the level
Peterson?
of a staff for the weary, a sheet anchor for the drowning, when he becomes the poor man's God, the sinner's God, the invalid's God par excellence, and the attribute of Savior or Redeemer remains as the one essential attribute of divinity. Just what is the significance of such a metamorphosis? What does such a reduction of the Godhead imply? To be sure, the kingdom of God has thus grown larger. Formerly, he had only his own people, his chosen people. But since then, he has gone wandering, like his people themselves, into foreign parts. He has given up settling down quietly anywhere. Finally, he has come to feel at home everywhere, and is the great cosmopolitan. Until now, he has the great majority on his side, and half the earth. This
Just
God
half?
of the great majority, this democrat among gods,
Oh
has not
shit.
become a
He's
proud heathen
he
god.
votes
On the
blue.
contrary,
Blue
he
state
remains a
god.
Jew. He remains a god in a corner.
Oh no. Oh
God
no.
of all the dark
No, stop getting
nooks
too
and
based.
crevices,
He's getting too big.
of all the noisome quarters of the world.
Is that bad?
His earthly kingdom, now as always, is a kingdom of the underworld, a souterrain kingdom, a ghetto kingdom,
Oh shit.
and he himself is so pale, so weak, so decadent.
This is way better.
Even the palest
racial
of the pale
material
are
than
able to
Ricada
master
had.
him. Messieurs, the metaphysicians, those
Fucking, he's going into like the ghetto Christians and stuff like that. Whereas Ricada's like, yeah, black people, they got big dicks. Asians, they have small dicks. And he's like, oh shit. You're really pushing the barrier with that one. Going to the next level, huh? Meanwhile, here's Nietzsche. And Nietzsche is like, what, 100 years ago? 500 years ago? I think late 1800s. I think. I don't really know that much about him. I think late 1800s.
albinos of the intellect.
Oh, wait.
They
Is that-
spun their
is that
webs
good?
around him for so long that finally he was hypnotized and began to spin himself and became another metaphysician.
Should I not do that? You shouldn't do
Thereafter, he resumed once more his old business of spinning the world out of his inmost being, subspecies Spinozae. Thereafter, he became ever thinner and paler, became the ideal, became pure spirit, became the absolute, became the thing in itself. The collapse of a god, he became a thing in itself. Section 18.
That guy certainly didn't.
The
He didn't
Christian
become a thing.
concept of a god. The god as the patron of the sick. The god as a spinner of cobwebs. The god as a spirit. Is one of the most
The
corrupt
spider
concepts
god.
that has ever been set up in the world.
Is that bad?
It probably touches
probably-
low watermark in the ebbing evolution of the god type.
Oh.
God degenerated into the contradiction of life.
Has there
Instead
been
of
a
being
bunch
its
of gods?
transfiguration and
sorts of gods.
eternal yea.
Yay.
In him, war is declared on life, on nature.
I can't
on the
believe
will to
Nietzsche
live.
even references Kanye West in this.
God becomes the formula.
Really ahead of
for
his
every
time, then.
slander upon the here and now, and for every lie about the beyond. In him, nothingness is deified, and the will to nothingness is made holy. Section 19. The fact that the strong races of Northern Europe did not repudiate this Christian god
The strong
does little
ones.
credit to their gift for religion, and not much more to their taste.
This
They ought to have
sounds
been
kind of
able
woke.
to make an
He's being
end of
anti-white.
such moribund and worn-out
Anti-white.
product of the decadence. A curse lies
Ooh.
upon them, because they were not equal to it. They
Shit.
made illness, decrepitude, and contradiction part of their instincts. And since then, they've not managed to create any more gods. 2,000
Source
years have
Sweaty.
come and gone, and not a single new god. Instead, there still exists, and as if by some intrinsic right, as if he were the ultimatum and maximum of the power to create gods, of the creator spiritus in mankind, this pitiful god of Christian monotheism,
Whoa.
this hybrid image of decay conjured up out of emptiness, contradiction, and vain imagining, in which all the instincts of decadence, all the cowardices and wearinesses of the soul find their sanction.
Just call him gay, pal. Come on.
End sections 1 through 19.
Oh, that was a good
This
section.
recording
of
is in the
sections.
public domain.
That better not be the whole book, motherfucker.
This is a LibriVox recording.
What?
All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain.
Better not start over.
For more information or to
No.
volunteer,
No.
visit LibriVox.org.
Liver.
Recorded by Kirsten Ferreri. The Antichrist by Friedrich Nietzsche.
This better not
Sections
start
20
over.
through 26.
Oh, okay. I get it. You know, I get it. I get it.
Section 20. In my condemnation of Christianity,
Condom.
I surely hope I do no injustice to a related religion with an even larger number of believers. I allude to Buddhism. Both are to be reckoned among the nihilistic religions. They are both decadence religions, but they are separated from each other in a very remarkable way. For the fact that he is able to compare them at all, the critic of Christianity is indebted to the scholars of India. Buddhism is 100 times as realistic as Christianity. It is part of its
Oh,
living
shit.
heritage that it is
Oh,
able to face
shit.
problems objectively and coolly. It is the product of long centuries of philosophical speculation. The concept God was already disposed of before it appeared. Buddhism is the only genuinely positive religion to be encountered in history, and
Did
this
Richard
applies
Gere
even to
write
its
this part?
epistemology, which is a strict phenomenalism. It does not speak of a struggle with sin, but yielding to reality, of the struggle with suffering. Sharply differentiating itself from Christianity, it puts the self-deception that lies in moral concepts behind it.
Oh,
It is,
boy.
in my phrase, beyond good and evil. The two physiological
Like the
facts
video
upon
game.
which it grounds itself,
It's a great
and
game.
upon which it bestows its chief attention, are first, an excessive sensitiveness to sensation,
Why is
which manifests
Nietzsche
itself as
ripping
a
off
refined
Ubisoft?
susceptibility to pain, and secondly, an extraordinary spirituality, a too protracted concern with concepts and logical procedures, under the influence of which the instinct of personality has yielded to a notion of the impersonal. Both of these states will be familiar to a few of my readers, the objectivists, by experience, as they are to me.
I haven't read anything.
These
you made.
physiological states
Sorry,
produced a
Nietzsche.
depression, and Buddha tried to combat it by hygienic measures.
Oh.
Against it he prescribed a life in the open, a life of travel, moderation in eating, and a careful selection of foods, caution in the use of intoxicants, the same caution in arousing any of
No.
the passions that foster a bilious habit
So
and heat the
Ricado's
blood.
definitely out
Finally,
on this one.
no worry,
That's why I played
either on
his
one's
clip.
own account or on the account of others. He encourages ideas that make for either quiet contentment or good cheer. He finds means to combat ideas of other sorts. He understands good, the state of goodness,
That's working.
as something which promotes health. Prayer is not included, and neither is asceticism.
Oh, well, you know
There
what?
is
Then
no
it's bad.
categorical
It's
imperative,
for sure bad.
nor any disciplines, even within the walls of a monastery. It is always possible to leave. These things would have been simply means of increasing the excessive sensitiveness above mentioned. For the same reason he does not advocate any conflict with unbelievers. His teaching is antagonistic to nothing so much as revenge, aversion, resentment. Enmity never brings an end to enmity, the moving refrain of all Buddhism. And in all this he was right, for it is precisely these passions which, in view of his main regimental purpose, are unhealthful. The mental fatigue that he observes, already plainly displayed in too much objectivity, that is, in the individual's loss of interest in himself, in loss of balance and of egoism, he combats by strong efforts to lead even the spiritual interests back to the ego. In Buddha's teaching, egoism is a duty, the one thing needful. The question how you can be delivered from
Needful
suffering
things.
regulates and determines the whole spiritual diet. Perhaps one will here recall that Athenian who also declared war on pure scientificality, to wit Socrates, who also elevated egoism to the estate of a morality. Section 21.
Is he trashing Socrates too?
The things necessary to Buddhism are a very mild climate, customs of great gentleness and liberality, and no militarism. Moreover, it must get its start among the higher and better educated classes. Cheerfulness, quiet, and the absence of desire are the chief desiderata, and they are attained. Buddhism is not a religion in which perfection is merely an object of aspiration. Perfection is actually normal.
Oh, it's normal.
Under Christianity, the instincts
not
of the subjugated
weirdo
and the
behavior.
oppressed come to the fore. It is only those who are at the bottom who seek their salvation in it. Here the prevailing pastime, the favorite remedy for boredom, is the discussion of sin, self-criticism, the inquisition of conscience. Here the emotion produced by power, called God, is pumped up by prayer. Here the highest good is regarded as unattainable, as a gift, as grace. Here too open dealing is lacking. Concealment and the darkened room are Christian. Here body is despised and hygiene is denounced as
Christianity
sensual.
sounds gay.
The church even ranges itself against cleanliness. The first Christian order after the banishment of the Moors closed the public baths, of which there were 270 in Cordoba alone. Christian too is a
Cordoba a
certain
nice
cruelty
place?
toward oneself and
Maybe
toward
not
others,
anymore.
hatred of unbelievers, the will to persecute. Somber and disquieting
Persecute,
ideas
more
are in the
like.
foreground. The most esteemed states of mind, bearing the most respectable names, are epileptoid. The diet is so regulated as to engender morbid symptoms and overstimulate the nerves. Christian again is all deadly enmity to the rulers of the earth, to the aristocratic, along with a sort of secret rivalry with them. One resigns one's body to them. One wants only one's soul. And Christian is all hatred of the intellect, of pride,
Well, that's
of
not good.
courage, of freedom, of intellectual libertinage. Christian is all
That's
hatred
not a
of the
real word.
senses, of joy in the senses, of joy in general. Section 22.
Ooh.
When Christianity departed from its native soil, that of the lowest orders, the underworld of the ancient world, and began seeking power among barbarian peoples, it no longer had to deal with exhausted men, but with men still inwardly savage and capable of self-torture. In brief, strong men, but
Inwardly
bungled men.
savage.
Here, unlike in the case of the Buddhists, the cause of discontent with self, suffering through self, is not merely a general sensitiveness and susceptibility to pain, but on the contrary, an inordinate thirst for inflicting pain on others, a tendency to obtain subjective satisfaction in hostile deeds and ideas.
Not even
Christianity
objective,
had
isn't
to
it
embrace
subjective?
barbaric concepts and
Yes.
valuations in order to obtain mastery
Yes.
over
Oh.
barbarians. Of such sort, for example, are the sacrifices of the firstborn, the drinking of blood as a sacrament, the disdain of the intellect
that does sound pretty
and of
bizarre.
culture, torture
That sounds
in all
weird.
its forms,
That stuff sounds
whether
weird.
bodily or not, the whole pomp of the cult.
Sounds Jewish.
Buddhism is a religion for peoples in a further state
I'm
of
uncomfortable with the
development,
thought of this.
for races that
Jewish
have become
ritual.
kind, gentle, and over-spiritualized. Europe is not yet ripe for it. It is a summons that takes them back to peace and cheerfulness, to a careful rationing of the spirit, to a certain hardening of the body. Christianity aims at mastering beasts of prey. Its modus operandi is to make them ill. To make feeble is the Christian recipe for taming, for civilizing. Buddhism is a religion for the closing, over-wearied stages of civilization. Christianity appears before civilization has so much as begun. Under certain circumstances, it lays the very foundations thereof. Section 23. Buddhism, I repeat, is 100 times more austere, more honest, more objective. It no longer has to justify its
What?
pains, its susceptibility to
I
suffering
have a feeling
by
there's going to be
interpreting
a
these things
big...
in terms of sin.
There's going to be a
It
like,
simply says,
hold on a
as it
second.
simply thinks, I suffer. To the barbarian, however, suffering in itself is scarcely understandable. What he needs first of all is an explanation as to why he suffers. His mere instinct prompts him to deny his suffering altogether, or to endure it in silence. Here the word devil was a blessing. Man had to have an omnipotent and terrible enemy. There was no need to be ashamed of suffering at the hands of such an enemy.
Why not?
At the bottom of Christianity, there are several subtleties that belong to the Orient. In the first place,
Yeah, at the power
it knows
bottom.
that it is of very little consequence whether a thing be true or not, so long as it is believed to be true.
I'm delivering some real
Truth
Ricada
and faith.
lines.
Here we have
this-
two wholly
for
distinct
this
worlds
stream.
of ideas, almost two diametrically
I'm a
opposite
professional
worlds.
comedian now.
The road to the one and the road to the other lie miles apart. To understand that fact thoroughly, this is almost enough in the Orient to make one a sage.
Ah, the mysterious
Brahmins knew it.
Orient.
Plato knew it. Every student of the esoteric knows it. When, for example, a man gets any pleasure out of the notion that he has been saved from sin, it is not necessary for him to be actually sinful, but merely to feel sinful. But when faith is thus exalted above everything else, it necessarily follows that reason, knowledge, and patient enquiry have to be discredited. The road to the truth becomes a forbidden road. Hope, in its stronger forms, is a great deal more powerful stimulants to life than any sort of realized joy can ever be. Man must be sustained in suffering by a hope so high that no conflict with actuality can dash it, so high indeed that no fulfillment can satisfy it, a hope reaching out beyond this world. Precisely because of this power that hope has of making the suffering hold out, the Greeks regarded it as the evil of evils, as the most malign of evils. It remained
They're
behind
onto
at
something.
the source of all evil, that is, in Pandora's box. In order that love may be possible,
That's
God
what was
must
going
become
on there?
a person. In order that the lower instincts may take
The
a hand in the matter, God
anthropomorphization
must
of
be
God.
young. To satisfy the ardor of the
God
woman,
is a
beautiful
furry.
saint
That's
must
what Nietzsche's
appear on
saying.
the scene.
God is a furry.
And to satisfy that
I
of the
knew
men,
it.
there must be a virgin. These things are necessary if Christianity is to assume lordship over a soil on which some aphrodisiacal or Adonis cult has already established a notion as to what a cult ought to be. To insist upon chastity greatly strengthens the vehemence
Yarg.
and subjectivity of the religious instinct. It makes the cult warmer, more enthusiastic, more soulful. Love is the
comparing
state
religion
in which
to a
man
cult.
sees
He's
things
gone
most
too far now.
decidedly as they are not.
Gone too far.
The force of illusion reaches its highest
Woke
here,
garbage.
and so does the capacity for sweetening, for
Oh.
transfiguring. When a man is in love, he endures more than at any other time. He submits to anything.
Even me?
The problem was to devise a religion which would allow one to love. By this means, the worst that life has to offer is overcome. It is scarcely even noticed. So much for the three Christian virtues: faith,
Whoa.
hope, and charity. I call them the
Correct,
three
and
Christian
wrecked.
ingenuities. Buddhism
Onderino.
is in too late a stage of development, too full of positivism, to be shrewd in any such way.
That's why it sucks. Oh, shit. Oh, come on.
Section 24.
Okay. Okay.
Here I barely touch on the problem of the origin of Christianity. The first thing necessary to its solution is this, that Christianity is to be understood only by examining the soil from which it sprung. It is not
where's that
a reaction against
cigarette
Jewish
pack?
instincts. It is their inevitable
Oh.
product. It is simply one more step in the awe-inspiring logic of the Jews. In the words of the Savior, salvation is of the Jews. The second thing to remember is this, that the psychological type of the Galilean is still to be recognized. But it was only in its most degenerate form, which is
Whoa.
at once maimed and overladen with foreign features, that it could serve in the manner in which it has been used, as a type of the Saviour of mankind. The Jews are the most remarkable people in the history of the world,
Oh, no.
for when they were confronted with the question, to be or not to be, they chose, with perfectly unearthly deliberation, to be at any price. This price involved a radical falsification of all nature, of all naturalness, of all reality, of the whole inner world, as
We're
well
really
as of
going
the
somewhere
outer.
now. Okay.
They put
here we
themselves
go.
against all those conditions under which hitherto a
have-
people had been able to live, or had even been permitted to live.
Shit.
Out of themselves they evolved an idea which stood in direct opposition to natural conditions. One by one they distorted religion, civilization, morality, history, and psychology, until each became a contradiction of its natural significance. We meet
Sounds
with
cool.
the same phenomenon later on, in an incalculably exaggerated form, but only as a copy. The Christian Church, put beside the people of God, shows a complete lack of any claim to originality. Precisely for this reason the Jews are the most fateful people in the history of the world. Their influence has so falsified the reasoning of mankind in this matter, that today the Christian can cherish anti-Semitism without realizing that it is no more than the final consequence of Judaism. In my genealogy
Wait
of
a
morals,
second.
I give the first
feel like
psychological
I need to listen to this a
explanation
few
of the
times.
concepts underlying these two antithetical things, a noble morality and a resentiment morality, the second of which is a mere product of the denial of the former. The Judeo-Christian moral system belongs to the second
what,
division,
what?
and in every detail. In order to be able to say nay to everything representing an ascending evolution of life, that is, to well-being, to power, to beauty, to self-approval, the instincts of resentment, here become downright genius, had to invent another world
Genius.
in which the acceptance of life appeared as the most evil and abominable thing imaginable. Psychologically,
Like a
the Jews
snowman.
are a people
What?
gifted with the very strongest vitality, so much so that when they found themselves facing impossible conditions of life, they chose voluntarily, and with a profound talent for self-preservation, the side of all those instincts which make for decadence, not as if mastered by them, but as if detecting in them a power by which the world could be defied. The Jews are the very opposite of decadence. They have simply been forced into appearing in
defying the
that
world.
guise,
Don't
and
do
with a
that.
degree of skill approaching the
No, don't do
non plus
that.
ultra of histrionic genius, they have managed to put themselves at the head of all
Histrionic
decadent
genius.
movements, for example, the Christianity of Paul, and so make of them
I'm
something
a
stronger
genius.
than any
Oh,
party
yeah.
frankly saying yes to life. To the sort of men who reach out for power under Judaism and Christianity, that is to say, to the priestly class, decadence is no more than a means to an end. Men of this sort have a vital interest in making mankind sick, and in confusing the values of good and bad,
I am
true and
sick.
false, in a manner that is not
what she
only
means.
dangerous
Sure.
to life, but also slanders it. Section 25.
Did I
The
accidentally
history of Israel
glitch
is
Phil?
invaluable, as a typical history of an attempt to denaturize all natural values.
wait.
I point to
second.
5 facts which bear this out. Originally, and above all in the time of the monarchy, Israel maintained the right attitude of things, which is to say the natural attitude. Its Yahweh was an expression of its consciousness of power, its joy in itself, its hopes for itself, To him the Jews looked for victory and salvation, and through him they expected nature to give them whatever was necessary to their existence, above all, rain. Yahweh is the God of Israel, and consequently the God of justice. This is the logic of every race that has power in its hands and a good conscience in the use of it. In the religious ceremonial of the Jews, both aspects of this
positive towards
self-approval
Judaism.
stand revealed.
Too much,
The
perhaps?
nation is grateful for the high destiny that has enabled it to obtain dominion. It is grateful for the benign procession of the seasons, and for the good fortune attending its herds and crops. This view of things remained an ideal for a long while, even after it had been robbed of validity by tragic blows, anarchy within and the Assyrian without. But the people still retained, as a projection of their
Trashing the
highest
Assyrians
yearnings,
now?
that vision of a king who was at once a gallant warrior and an upright judge, a vision best visualized in the typical prophet, i.e. critic and satirist of the moment, Isaiah. But every hope remained unfulfilled. The old God no longer could do what he used to do. He ought to
Why
have
not?
been abandoned. But what actually happened? Simply this. The conception of him was changed. The conception of him was denaturized. That was the price that had to be paid for keeping him. Yahweh, the God of justice, he is in accord with Israel no more. He no longer visualizes the national egoism. He is now a God only conditionally. The public notion of this God becomes merely
That
a
does
weapon
sound very
in
Jewish
the
to
hands
make
of
a
clerical
conditional God.
agitators who interpret all happiness
You
as a
God,
reward
but it's just conditional.
and all unhappiness as a punishment for
That's how they
obedience
talk.
or disobedience to him,
I knew
for
it.
sin, that most fraudulent of all imaginable interpretations, whereby a moral order of the world is set up, and the fundamental concepts, cause and effect, are stood on their heads. Once natural causation has been swept out of the world by the doctrines of reward and punishment, some sort of unnatural causation becomes necessary, and all other varieties of the denial of nature follow it. A God who demands, in place of a God who helps, who gives counsel, who is at bottom merely a name for every happy inspiration of courage and self-reliance. Morality is no longer a reflection of the conditions which make for the sound life and development of the people. It is no longer the primary life instinct. Instead, it has become abstract and in opposition to life, a fundamental perversion of the fancy.
Well, it shouldn't
an
do
evil
that.
eye on all things.
I think.
What is Jewish?
My opinion.
What is Christian morality?
I don't
Chance robbed of its innocence. Unhappiness polluted with the idea of sin. Well-being represented
This is
as
old.
danger, as temptation, a physiological disorder produced by the cankerworm of conscience. Section 26.
Shit.
The concept of God falsified.
Should I?
The concept of morality falsified. But even
Well,
here,
don't
Jewish
falsify those
priestcraft
things.
did not stop.
Just don't falsify
The
them,
whole
pal.
history
What are
of
you talking
Israel
about?
ceased to be of any value. Out with it. These priests accomplished
This was
that
before
miracle
there
of
was a state of
falsification,
Israel.
of which a great part of the Bible is the documentary evidence, with a degree of contempt unparalleled, and in the face of all tradition and all historical reality, they translated the past of their people into religious terms, which is to say, they converted it into an idiotic mechanism of salvation, whereby all offenses against Yahweh were punished, and all devotion to him was rewarded. We would regard this act of
Sounds
historical falsification as something far more shameful if familiarity with the ecclesiastical interpretation of history for thousands of years had not blunted our inclinations for uprightness in historicis.
As is about the
And the philosophers support the church.
the lack of
lie
technological
about a moral
advancement
order of the
ever
world
since
runs
Yakub
through the whole
invented
philosophy,
the crack
even
of
the
white
newest.
race.
What is the meaning of a moral order of the world? That there is a thing called
I don't
the
know.
will of God, which once and for all time determines what man ought to do and what he ought not to do. That the worth of a people, or of an individual thereof, is to be measured by the extent to which they or he obey this will of God. That the destinies of a
Sounds
people
very
or of an
fedora-tipping,
individual are
man.
controlled by this will of God, which rewards or punishes according to the degree of obedience manifested. In place of all that pitiful lie, reality has this to say: the priest, a parasitical variety of man, who can exist only at the cost of every sound view of life, takes the name of God in vain. he calls that state of human society in which he himself determines the value of all things the kingdom of God. He calls the means whereby that state of affairs is attained the will of God.
Oh, there we go.
With cold-blooded
Over
cynicism,
here.
he estimates all people, all ages, and
Both
all
of you
individuals
motherfuckers.
by the extent of their subservience or opposition to the power of the priestly order. One observes him at work. Under the hand of the Jewish priesthood, the great age
Whoa,
of Israel became an age of decline.
Every time I say
The exile, with its long series of misfortunes, was transformed into a punishment for that great age, during which priests had not yet come into existence. Out of the powerful and wholly free heroes of Israel's history, they fashioned, according to their changing needs, either wretched bigots and hypocrites, or men entirely godless.
Whoa.
They reduced every great event to the idiotic formula, obedient
Every
or
response
disobedient to
I
God.
have so far is, whoa.
They went a step further. The will of God, in other words, some means necessary for preserving the power of the priests, had to be determined, and to this end they had to have a revelation. In plain English, a gigantic literary fraud had to be perpetrated, and holy scriptures had to be concocted. And so, with utmost hierarchical pomp, and days of penance and much lamentation over the long days of sin now ended, they were duly published. The will of God, it appears, had long stood like a rock. The trouble was that mankind had neglected the Holy Scriptures. But the will of God had already been revealed to Moses. What happened? Simply this. The priest had formulated, once and for all time, and with the strictest meticulousness, what tithes were to be paid to him, from the largest to the smallest, not forgetting the most appetizing cuts of meat,
cash.
for the priest is a great consumer of beefsteaks. In brief, he let it be known just what he wanted, what the will of God was. From this time forward, things were so arranged that the priest became indispensable everywhere, at all the great natural events of life, at birth, at marriage, in sickness, at death, not to say at
In
the
sickness
sacrifice,
and death.
that is, at mealtimes. The holy parasite put in his appearance, and proceeded to denaturize it, in his own phrase, to sanctify it.
No, thank
For
you.
this should be noted, that every natural habit,
Should it?
every
No,
natural
it should.
institution, the state, the administration of justice, marriage, the care of the sick and of the poor, everything demanded by the life instinct, in short, everything that has any value in itself, is reduced to absolute worthlessness, and even made the reverse of valuable by the parasitism of priests, or, if you choose, by the moral order of the world. The fact requires a sanction. A power to grant values becomes necessary, and the only way it can create such values
That's
is by
what's fun,
denying
actually.
nature. The priest depreciates and desecrates nature. It is only at this price that he can
Why do they
exist
do
at all.
that?
Disobedience to God, which actually means to the priest, to the law, now gets the name of sin. The means prescribed for reconciliation with God are, of course,
Gee, when he
precisely
puts it like
the means
that, it
which
makes
bring one most
religion just
effectively
kinda
under
sound
the thumb of
inherently
the priest.
corrupt.
He alone can save. Psychologically considered, sins are indispensable to every society organized on an ecclesiastical basis. They are the only reliable weapons of power. The priest lives upon sins. It is necessary to him that there be sinning. Prime axiom, God forgiveth him that repenteth. In plain English, him that submitteth to the priest.
Whoa. Whoa,
End
whoa,
of sections
whoa.
20 through 26.
Wah, wah, wah. Where is that bullet? If I just, if I do this again. Yeah, look at that.
This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain.
Yep.
For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Antichrist by Friedrich Nietzsche.
There's
Sections
an
27
there's an
through
Antichrist
42.
over there. There. No?
Christianity sprang from a
There.
soil so corrupt that on it everything
What?
natural, every natural value, every reality
Come
was
on,
opposed
lay
by the
off
deepest
'em.
instincts
Come
of
on,
the ruling
Nietzsche.
class. It grew up as a sort of war to the death upon
Talk
reality.
about obsessed.
And as
Chuck,
such, it has never
Nietzsche's
been
fucking
surpassed.
obsessed.
The holy people who had adopted priestly values and priestly names for all things, and who, with a terrible logical consistency, had rejected
Nietzsche's obsessed,
everything of
he's
the
jealous,
earth as
he's a
unholy,
detractor, he's a
worldly,
hater.
sinful.
All those things
This
combined.
people put its instinct into a final
Is that
formula
based?
that was logical to
Yes.
the point of self-annihilation, As Christianity, it actually denied even the last form of reality, the holy people, the chosen people, Jewish
bitch's
reality
voice
itself.
It's
The
great.
phenomenon is
I
of
love
the
it.
first order of importance.
I love it.
The small insurrectionary movement, which took the name of Jesus of Nazareth, is simply the Jewish instinct redivivus. In other words, it is the priestly instinct come to such a pass that it can no longer endure the priest as a fact. It is the discovery of a state of existence
Priests
even
blown
more
out.
fantastic than any before it,
Shrek.
of a vision of life even more unreal than that necessary to
More
an
like a vision of love.
ecclesiastical organization. Christianity actually
And it's
denies
more
the church.
than it's given to me.
I am unable to determine what was the target of the insurrection said to have been led, whether rightly or wrongly, by Jesus, if it was not the Jewish church. Church being here used in exactly the same sense that the word has today. It was an insurrection against the good and just, against the prophets of Israel, against the whole hierarchy of society, not against corruption, but against caste, privilege, order, formalism.
You know what I
It was
like? There's no
unbelief
sarcasm in this,
superior
apparently.
men,
I'm like,
a nay flung
was
at
he being
everything
goofy
that
about this?
priests
It's
and
like, oh wait, no,
theologians
he's just
stood for.
being straightforward.
But the hierarchy that was
saying-
called into
he's just
question,
saying what he means.
if only for an instant, by this movement was the
Why am I
structure
carrying
of
this?
piles which, above everything, was necessary to the safety of the Jewish people in the midst of the waters. It represented their last possibility of survival. It was the final residuum of their independent political existence. An attack upon it was an attack upon the most profound national instinct, the most powerful national will to
Nationalism.
live that has ever appeared on earth. This saintly anarchist who aroused the people
Nationalism
of the abyss,
and
the
religion at the
outcasts
same
and
time?
sinners, the Chandala of Judaism,
As
to
if
rise
they were
in revolt
indistinguishable
against the
from each
established order
other.
of things, and in language which, if the Gospels are to be credited, would get him sent to
aren't.
Siberia today.
Whoa.
This man was certainly a political criminal,
Wait,
at least
who's sending who
insofar
to
as it was
Siberia?
possible to be
And
one
why?
in so absurdly unpolitical a community. This is what brought him to the cross. The proof thereof is to be found in the inscription that was put
Selfie.
upon
Oh,
the
whatever.
cross. He died for
lost
his
10
own
bucks.
sins.
Whatever.
There is not the slightest ground for believing, no matter how often it is asserted, that he died for the sins of others.
Whoa. But that's what Christianity
Section
is all
28.
about. That's what
As to whether
Christianity
he
is all
himself was conscious
about.
of this contradiction, whether, in fact, this was the only contradiction he was cognizant of, that is quite another question. Here, for the first time, I touch upon the problem of the psychology of the Savior. I confess, to begin with, that there are very few books which offer me harder reading than the
What a
Gospels.
song.
My difficulties are quite different from those which enabled the
did,
learned curiosity of the German mind to achieve
Mirror
one
in
of
the
its most
bathroom.
unforgettable
That's also a great
triumphs.
song. The same band.
It is a long while since I, like all other young scholars, enjoyed with all the sapient
Young
laboriousness
scholars, huh?
of a fastidious
Are ya?
philologist the work of the incomparable Strauss. Translator's Note 5. David Friedrich Strauss, 1808-1874, author of Das Leben Jesu, 1835-36,
Jesu? Oh.
a very famous work in its day. Nietzsche here refers to it.
So you say.
End of note.
That's what
At
you
that
think,
time,
pal.
I was 20 years old. Now I am
fuck.
too serious for that sort of thing. What do I care for the contradictions
Why is there an
of
empty
tradition?
shelf? It looks like it's
How
jammed,
can
but it's
anyone
not. It's
call
empty.
pious legends
Isn't it?
traditions?
Yep.
The histories of saints present the most dubious variety of literature in existence. To examine them by the scientific method, in the entire absence of corroborative documents, seems to me to condemn the whole inquiry from the start. It is simply learned idling. Section 29. What concerns me
29,
is the
huh?
psychological
Oh, no.
type of the Savior. This type might be depicted in the Gospels in however mutilated a form, and however much overladen with extraneous characters, that is, in spite of the Gospels, just as the figure of Francis of Assisi shows itself in his legends in spite of his
Assisi.
legends. It is not a question of mere truthful evidence as to what he did,
Have to
what
go
he
around this
said,
way,
and
don't
how
I?
he
Yeah, and
actually
there's a tree.
died. The question is whether
Yes.
his type is still
And
conceivable,
then this tree.
whether it has been handed down to us.
Whoa.
All the attempts that I know
I
of
almost
to read
walked
the
into that.
history of a
Okay,
soul
I'm
in the
okay.
Gospels seem to me to reveal only a lamentable psychological levity. M. Renan, that mountebank in Psychologicus, has contributed the two most unseemly notions to this business of explaining the type of Jesus. The notion of the genius
So many
and
types
that
of
the
Jesus.
hero, Eros. But if there is anything essentially unevangelical, it is surely the concept of the hero.
Shit.
What the Gospels make instinctive is precisely the reverse of all heroic struggle, of all taste for conflict. The very incapacity for resistance is here
okay.
converted into something moral. Resist not evil, the most profound sentence in the Gospels, perhaps the true key to them, to wit, the blessedness of peace, of gentleness, the inability to be an enemy. What is the meaning of glad tidings? The true life,
I
the
don't know.
life eternal has been found. It is not merely promised, it is here. It is in you. It is
More
the
like the
life
life
that lies
aquatic.
in love, free from all retreats
what
and
does that mean?
exclusions, from all keeping of
Do I
distances.
have no knives left?
Everyone is the child of
Gotta
God.
go get some.
Jesus claims nothing for himself alone. As the
Why not?
child of God, each man is the equal of every other man.
Each man is
Imagine
God.
making Jesus
And
a
each
hero.
man is free.
And what a tremendous misunderstanding appears in the word genius. Our whole conception of the spiritual, the whole conception
Jesus
of our
is not a hero?
civilization, could have had no meaning in the world that Jesus lived
That's
in.
good.
In the strict sense of the physiologist, a quite different word ought to be used here. We all know that there is a morbid sensibility
Don't
of
go
the
there.
tactile nerves which
Don't do it
causes
to him.
those suffering from it to
Nietzsche's
recoil
gonna do
from
it to
every
him.
touch, and from every effort to grasp a solid object.
Oh.
Brought to its logical conclusion, such a physiological habitus becomes an instinctive hatred of all reality, a flight into the intangible,
Holy
into the
shit.
incomprehensible,
Holy
a
based.
distaste for all formulae, for all conceptions of time and space, for everything established, customs, institutions, the church, a feeling of being at home in a world in which no sort of reality survives, a merely inner world, a true world, an eternal world. The kingdom of God is within you.
Is it?
Section 30. The instinctive hatred of reality, the consequence of an extreme susceptibility to pain and irritation, so great that merely to be touched
And pain
becomes
with urination.
unendurable, for every sensation is too profound. The instinctive exclusion of all aversion, all hostility, all bounds and distances in feeling, the consequence of an extreme susceptibility to pain and irritation, so great that
That's
it
actually
senses
not bad
all
one.
resistance, all compulsion to resistance, as unbearable anguish, that is to say,
That
as
is bad
harmful,
money.
as prohibited
Whatever.
by the instinct of self-preservation, and regards blessedness, joy, as possible only when it is no longer necessary to offer resistance to anybody or anything, however evil or dangerous, love as the only, as the ultimate possibility of life. These are the two physiological realities upon and out of which the doctrine of salvation has sprung. I call them a sublime superdevelopment of hedonism upon a thoroughly
Oh.
unsalubrious soil.
Perhaps even
What
hedonism
stands
too.
most closely related to them, though with a large admixture of Greek vitality and nerve force, is Epicureanism, the theory of salvation of paganism. Epicurus was a typical decadent. I was the first to recognize him.
Wow, way to
The
blow
fear
him
of
off.
pain, even of infinitely slight pain, the end of this can be nothing save a religion of love. Section 31. I have already given my answer to the problem. The prerequisite to it is the assumption that the type of the Savior has reached us only in a greatly distorted form. This distortion is very probable. There are many reasons why a type of that sort should not be handed down in a pure form, complete and free of additions. The milieu in which this strange figure moved must have left marks upon him, and more must have been imprinted by the history, the destiny, of the early Christian communities. The latter, indeed, must have embellished the type retrospectively, with characters which can be understood only as serving the purposes of war and of propaganda. That strange and sickly world into which the Gospels lead us, a world apparently out of a Russian novel, in which the scum of society, nervous maladies, and childish idiocy keep a tryst, must, in any case, have coarsened the type. The first disciples, in particular, must have been forced to translate an existence visible only in symbols and incomprehensibilities into their own crudity, in order to understand it at all. In their sight, the type could take on reality only after it had been recast in a familiar mold. The prophet, the Messiah, the future judge, the teacher of morals, the worker of wonders, John the Baptist, all these merely presented chances to misunderstand it. Finally, let us not underrate the proprium of all great and especially all sectarian veneration. It tends to erase from the venerated objects all of its original traits and idiosyncrasies, often so painfully strange it does not even see them. It is greatly to be regretted that no Dostoevsky lived in the neighborhood of this most interesting decadent. I mean someone who would have felt the poignant charm of such a compound of the sublime, the morbid, and the childish. In the last analysis, the type, as a type of the decadence, may actually have been peculiarly complex and contradictory. Such a possibility is not to be lost sight of. Nevertheless, the probabilities seem to be against it, for in that case tradition would have been particularly accurate and objective, whereas we have reasons for assuming the contrary. Meanwhile, there is a contradiction between the peaceful preacher of the Mount, the seashore and the fields, who appears like a new Buddha on a soil very unlike India's,
New Buddha? Was
and
there
the
an
aggressive
old one?
fanatic, the mortal enemy of
they ripping
theologians
off
and
Buddha?
ecclesiastics, who stands glorified by Renan's malice as le grand maître en ironie. I myself haven't any doubt that the greater part of this venom, and no less of esprit, got itself into the concept of the master only
Nietzsche
as a
was into
result
cape
of the
shit, too.
excited nature of Christian propaganda. We all know the unscrupulousness of sectarians when they set out to turn their leader into an apologia for themselves.
Christianity is woke garbage?
When the early Christians had need of an adroit, contentious, pugnacious, and
Very
maliciously
woke.
subtle theologian to tackle other theologians,
Garbage.
they created a god that met that need,
Garbage day.
just as they put into his mouth, without hesitation, certain
Whoa.
ideas that were necessary to them, but that were utterly at odds with the Gospels. The Second Coming, the Last Judgment, all sorts of expectations and promises current at the time. Section 32. I can only repeat that I set myself against all efforts to intrude the fanatic into the figure of the Savior. The very word impérieux used by
The
Renan
Fanatic,
is
the
alone
movie,
enough to
directed
annul the
by
type.
Fred
What the
Durst.
glad tidings tell us is simply that there are no more contradictions. The kingdom of heaven belongs to children. The faith that is voiced here is no more an embattled faith. It is at hand, it has been from the beginning. It is a sort of recrudescent childishness of the spirit. The physiologists, at all events, are familiar with such a delayed and incomplete puberty in the living organism, the result of degeneration. A faith of this sort is not furious, it does not denounce, it does not defend itself, it does not come with the sword, it does not realize how it will one day set man against man. It does not manifest
beast against
itself
beast.
either by miracles, or by rewards
Beasts
and
and
promises,
beasted
or by
beast.
scriptures. It is itself, first and last, its own miracle, its own reward, its own promise, its own kingdom of God. This faith does not formulate itself, it simply lives, and so guards itself against formulae. To be sure, the accident of environment, of educational background, gives prominence to concepts of a certain sort. In primitive Christianity, one finds only concepts of a Judeo-Semitic character. That of eating and drinking at the Last Supper belongs to this category, an idea which, like everything else Jewish, has been badly mauled by the Church. But let us be careful not to see in all this anything more than symbolical language, semantics, and opportunity to speak in parables. Translator's Note 6. The word semiotic is in the text, but it is probable that semantic is what Nietzsche had in mind. End of Note 6.
You're
It is only on
overriding
the
Nietzsche?
theory that no work is to be taken literally
Holy
that
shit.
this anti-realist is able to speak at all. Set down among Hindus, he would have made use of the concepts of Sankhya, Translator's Note 7, one of the 6 great systems of Hindu philosophy. End Note 7. and among Chinese he would have employed those of Lao Tse. Translator's Note 8. The reputed founder of Taoism. End of Note 8. And in neither case would it have made any difference to him. With a little freedom in the use of words, one might actually call Jesus a, quote, free spirit, unquote.
Uh-oh.
Translator's Note 9.
Think for yourself for a
Nietzsche's
weirdo,
name
perhaps?
for one accepting his own philosophy. End of Note 9. He cares nothing for what is established. The word killeth. Translator's Note 10. That is, the strict letter of the law, the chief target of Jesus' early preaching. End of Note 10. Whatever is established killeth. The idea of life as an experience, as he alone conceives it, stands opposed to his mind to every sort of word, formula, law, belief, and dogma. He speaks only of inner things, life, or truth, or light.
Nietzsche made
is his word for
a
the
minor
innermost.
grammatical
In his
error.
sight, everything else, the
The
whole
end.
of reality,
It's over. I should
all
just
nature,
end the stream.
even language,
I'm just going to
has
end the stream.
significance
This
only as
video is
sign, as
over.
allegory. Here it is of paramount importance to be led into no error by the
Paramount
temptations
plus.
lying in Christian, or rather ecclesiastical prejudices. Such a symbolism par excellence stands outside all religion, all notions of worship, all history, all natural science, all worldly experience, all
Even
knowledge,
weird
all
science.
politics, all psychology, all books, all art. His wisdom is precisely a pure ignorance. Translator's Note 11. A reference to the pure ignorance, reine Thorheit, of Parsifal. End of Note 11. Of all such
9/11.
things.
Yeah.
He has never heard of culture. He doesn't have to make war on it. He doesn't even deny it. The same thing may be said of the state, of the whole bourgeoisie social order, of labor, of war. He has no ground for denying the world, for he knows nothing of the ecclesiastical concept of the world. Denial is precisely the thing that is impossible to him. In the same way, he lacks argumentative capacity, and has no belief that an article of faith, a truth, may be established by proofs. His proofs are inner lights, subjective sensations of happiness and self-approval, simple proofs of power. Such a doctrine cannot contradict. It doesn't know that other doctrines exist, or can exist, and is wholly incapable of imagining anything opposed to it. If anything of the sort is ever encountered, it laments the blindness with sincere sympathy, for it alone has light, but it does not offer objections.
Every time I pass by this, it looks like there's a pickup
Section
circle.
33. In the whole
Fucking with me.
psychology of the Gospels, the concepts of guilt and punishment are lacking, and so is that of reward. Sin, which means anything that puts a distance between God and man, is abolished. This is precisely the glad tidings. Eternal bliss is not merely promised, nor is it bound up with conditions. It is conceived as the only reality. What remains consists merely of signs useful in speaking of it. The results of such a point of view project themselves into a new way of life, the special evangelical way of life. It is not a belief that marks off the Christian. He is distinguished by a different mode of action.
After
He acts
this, I actually wanna
differently. He
cash in
offers
for the
no
day. How long has this
resistance,
been
either
going?
by word or
About
in
2
his
hours.
heart, to those who stand
Too
against
long.
him. He draws no distinction between strangers and country.
Actually, not to interrupt Nietzsche there, but I uninstalled Hitman today. I was thinking about playing it more in VR, but I was like, what is there left to do? I finished every mission in the game. I even went achievement hunting. I looked for achievements I could still get, and I was like, no. It's like, find every undiscovered location in this level, and this level, and then get this level to mastery level 20, which means doing pretty much everything in it, including killing the main targets in like 10 different ways by playing the mission 10 times over and that kind of stuff. And normally I would do that. The only reason why I'm not going to is because I have had all of the games to play. I had Hitman 1, 2, and 3 all in the same package, which is cool. Ugh. How is this supposed to work? Oh, I think it just snapped. I don't have to let go of it. Okay, neat. Come and get it. Oh, look, and all of these. Great. Don't need no number stations. One thing I was also just thinking about, almost getting sort of lost in thought, in a way I shouldn't, if I'm listening to a book on tape. I was just thinking about, like, Jim, as in, you know, Mr. Madaker. Jim's fans are kind of the reason that Terry A. Davis is dead. Because the whole view, the whole world view, maybe I'm getting a little philosophical. Oh, sweet, actually, I could really use extra knives. I'm getting a little philosophical myself now, you see, because I've been listening. What? This is one of the ones I dropped earlier and thought it just disappeared. It's like, oh, here it is. I don't know. Probably was. Wait, is that another one? No. That's just like a grass doodad. Now, yeah, the whole worldview of seeing, like, lol cows and looking for lol cows to laugh at. It was just the whole reason. Because I was just thinking about the fucking, it was a tweet from Terry A. Davis of, like, the CIA has an 8-year-old deep-throating a loaded 45 to fuck with me at the DMV. I'll teach you to pull the trigger, which is hilarious. But the whole, you know, training people to see Terry A. Davis as a guy to simply mock, make fun of, find new ways to get him to say things you can laugh at, instead of what they should have done, and I fucking am proven right by this. No. I'm proven right by this by the fact that he's not alive anymore. But instead of, you know, trying to milk the lol cows for the lol milk and that kind of dumb shit, instead, what you should do is encourage them. Encourage them positively. If it was up to me, Terry A. Davis would still be alive now because people would be encouraging him, and people would have been positively encouraging him and supporting him in all sorts of ways and being like, you know, it's you do some fun stuff and stuff, but I really like the stuff you do. It's like, you know, I know some people might laugh, but there are people who are laughing more with you. There are people who just enjoy the things you have to say. And, you know, tell him encouraging things. Even lie to him, perhaps. But, you know, something that will, you know, convince him that he's not simply a target of mockery that would lead him to committing suicide. Where is it now? What? No. Is that a pet show? Is that one of the... no. Nope. I mean, I always thought if I find one of the fuck. Fuck you. Oh. I kind of didn't expect that to work. Oh, shit. I didn't expect that to work. I'm glad it did, though. I always thought if I found a pet show in the wild, you know, one of the rare actual pet shows that is a spawn that simply doesn't have its AI activated, would I even shoot it? Because, I mean, they're not hostile. But don't I need spawn cores? We need the eggs. Anyways, but yeah, I was just thinking, you know, the whole Terry A. Davis stuff. He should have been encouraged positively, and all people did, all the Medicare fans did, was just make fun of him, mock him, do whatever they could. And I know there were some people. I remember seeing clips of him, or just full streams of him going to Target or whatever, and like buying some stuff, using his credit card, and being like, Terry, take this down. It shows your credit card number. As like people were genuinely trying to help. There were people who were genuinely supportive of him and wanted to help him, but a lot of people were like, he's just a funny lol cow. We're gonna laugh at it. We're gonna lol milk, you know, whatever the fuck, stupid bullshit. people who just follow what e-celebs do, e-celebs follower do. It's just, the parroting, the worshipful, obedient imitation of the e-celeb. The Gym Walker, as it is, like most fans of his thought of themselves and saw themselves as just alternate versions of him. They're like, hey, I can be just like Medicare. The magazine is worth more than the gun? I mean, it's probably the condition of it, whatever. Am I taller than normal? Did I just shrink? I'm shrinking! Anyways, okay, so, like I said, I was going to leave off on that. I'm just going to keep playing this until I
Jews and
cash in.
Gentiles. Neighbor, of course, means fellow believer, Jew. He is angry with no one and despises no one. He neither appeals to the courts of justice nor heeds their mandates. Swear not at all. Translator's Note 12, Matthew, verse 34. End of Note 12. He never, under any circumstances, divorces his wife, even when he has proofs of her infidelity. And under all of this is one principle. All of it arises from one instinct. The life of the Savior was simply a carrying out of this way of life, and so was his death. He no longer needed any formula or ritual in his relations with God, not even prayer. He had rejected the whole of the Jewish doctrine of repentance and atonement. He knew that it was only by a way of life that one could feel oneself divine, blessed, evangelical, a child of God. Not by repentance, not by prayer and forgiveness, is the way to God. Only the gospel way leads to God. It is itself God. What the Gospels abolished was the Judaism in the concepts of sin, forgiveness of sin, faith, salvation through faith. The whole ecclesiastical dogma of the Jews was denied by the glad tidings. The deep instinct which prompts the Christian how to live so that he will feel he is in
like it should be an
heaven
insulting
and is
thing,
immortal,
even though I know it's not.
despite many reasons for feeling that he is not in heaven, this is the only psychological reality in salvation, a new way of life, not a new faith. Section 34. If I understand anything at all about this great symbolist, it is this, that he regarded only subjective realities, as truths, that he saw everything else, everything natural, temporal, spatial, and historical, merely as signs, as materials for parables. The concept of the Son of God does not connote...
Okay, this is actually a good place to continue off, I guess, next time. Or maybe I might just listen to more of this on my own. While playing more of this game on my own. I want to gear up. I really want to gear up to do one of the main missions, which means doing just a bunch of these over and over again. I'm getting money. This is, it's a slow going, but it's working. And I don't really need these things yet. Keeping this. This is one I made myself. Great. I'm really not sure. It's like fucking... Why did I start with one? I think because they abandoned the game in the 1.0, and it's like, here, we're abandoning 1.0, but here's an update to it. They'll just let you just start with a silenced PM. Okay. So anyways, yeah, everyone, thanks for, let me start so when I get back to this, I know what I'm doing. Okay. Was the oldest save. This one. And then the newest save. So, thanks again for everyone showing up. You come in here with balls. We're able to do these streams because of people like you. Thoughts Synth Man. Yes. Yes. Christian Values destroyed the tribal family, and its household clan structure for nuclear family, which atomized society. Holy shit. Anyways. Thanks again for people, showing up, hanging out. It's fun. It's nice. I like this game. I was going to say, what's some other future plans? But I don't know. I uploaded that clip earlier today on the channel. I don't know if I'm going to stream tomorrow. Maybe I will. This soundboard thing doesn't seem to be working anymore, so real unfortunate, huh? That's too bad. But still, again, thanks for showing up. Anyone who wants to support us, links below. Subscribestar, PayPal, Ko-fi, Bitcoin. Cool. I'll still take Bitcoin's actually been going up a little bit lately. I think it went up from about 30K to 37K. So it went up a pretty decent amount. I don't know if people are going to act like, oh, it's going to go up to 40K. I have a feeling it's not going to hit 40K and it's going to crash back to 35 or maybe even 30. That doesn't mean, sell your Bitcoin now. I don't know. I don't know shit about Bitcoin. I just have some. I have a Coinbase account. I had no idea how you even get Bitcoin before Coinbase. It's like, okay, register on this really sketchy fucking Eastern European website that's partially not in English. It's like, what the fuck? So I don't know. I never did that either, but I always thought. I saw the websites that were like, here's a website where you can have a Bitcoin wallet. And I was like, and there are other European sites that are more legit, but they don't have official U.S. bank support. So it's like it has to be a U.S. based website in order to really even connect it to your bank account. And without connecting it to your bank account, it's like, well, what's the point? How do I actually get this? How is this actually money? Someone who's like back in the very first days of Bitcoin, it's like someone spent 300 Bitcoin to buy a pizza. It's like, oh, that 300 Bitcoin, you'd be a millionaire several times over by now if you kept it. But it's like, how do you even get the money? What pizza place takes Bitcoin in like 2008? I don't fucking know. Or 2006, I think it was. Again, I don't fucking. Anyways, thanks again, everyone, hanging out and having a delightful, happy, fun time. I should decorate this. Can't I just... Oh, that needs a mag. And this... I mean... No, I'm not going to use this anymore. I'm not going to use it. But how do I balance this? You know what, let me do that before I actually leave. Let's see, so this can go here, right? And this can go... No! Okay. This can go here. Nope. How the hell? Here, you know what? Whoa. Oh, actually, no, that would have worked. Shit. Yeah, here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, there we go. Yeah, perfect. And I could grab that right off the wall if I wanted to use it. The rest of this I basically have to keep. I would like to. And the thing is that this ammo type I prefer from handguns. So anyways. Okay, again. Is that a pentagram on there? Oh, it's just... I think that's the Russian star. But what's the difference? What is the difference between Courtney Love... Okay, whatever. You know what? I actually have to save if I'm going to keep that stuck to the wall. That's a nice, it goes nicely. It sort of blends in with the wall rug. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Okay. Thanks for showing up, everyone. Support us, become PayPig, and we'll see you next time. And for everyone else, should have listened to shitty webcomics. Raw.